Hello, everybody. Um, it's been a while since I posted something. I just did this video, but the audio didn't come out correctly, so I have to do it all over again. Like, oh my god. Um, so it's been a year since the last time I made something on this channel. I do have another channel that's was mostly meant for my transition, and eventually, my venture over here to Colorado. Um, but I guess I would post this on the old channel. About a year ago, I did post a video uh, about the difficulties of being here in Colorado. At the time, I was alone, which probably was a big contributing factor to my depression getting so bad. I was in a car accident. A lot of it led to self harm and a little too much substance abuse at the time. Uh, yeah. So in that time period, I've actually had surgery on my kidney. I had a tumor, and that was a little shocking. Um, I initially went to the hospital because I thought I had an issue with my liver because of my drinking had gotten so severe at that time, and they had found that my liver, it was a fatty liver, but then they found some object on my liver. They thought it was a cyst initially, but then I had to get an MRI, and once I got an MRI, the urologist said it was a tumor. And now I have like these 6 scars on my abdomen, which I find them to be extremely unpleasant. Um, so I guess I just made this video to try to update some people who are still following my channel. Every so often I do get comments on some of the commentary things I've done on certain pieces of music, from Jerry Goldsmith, John Williams, Hans Zimmer. Primarily the Star Trek scores get a lot of traction even now, even though I first made the channel I think back in 2008, so it's been nearly 20 years. I feel old because of that. um, there was a story that I wrote some time ago. There were very vague references to other kind of stories. I mean, you have to probably have read those stories to be familiar with the vague references I'm putting forth. Um, some of it might be from How the Grinch Stole Christmas, from Titus Andronicus, and even Dante's Inferno. Um, I mean, it's a very tiny story, and the references are extremely vague. But if you read those stories or seen any movies or TV shows based off of them, you might pick up on them. Um, there's also a brief reference to Terminator in it. Again, it's like you kind of have to have seen those films or read the stories to actually get them, but they're so vague that they probably go over a lot of people's heads. It was called Trembling Heart. Of all the dreadful things that I have done, nothing can compare to the kindness you have shown me. The once tiny and frail heart within my chest is now a beating monster. The monster desires, the monster wishes, it lusts, it wants to love. Love, no, it cannot be shown towards my trembling heart. But gratitude is what it'll experience. Trembling with fear from this new sensation, I've been brought down to my knees. Contemplation clouded my mind. This is greater than anger or despair. This set me free. Tears jettisoned out of my tear ducts and slowly crystallized out of around my body, immobilizing me. And one last breath I uttered of one good deed in all my life I did. I no longer repented for my very soul. Yes. So the reference is there at the beginning. The once tiny and frail heart within my chest is now a beating monster. That's the How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Towards the end of the story, his little heart starts beating, and getting bigger and stronger. Now he has a heart towards the end of the story. Um, I forget like some of the references, but like the one where it says, "This is greater than anger or despair." And that's a reference to Terminator 3. I forget exactly how that line went. Desire is irrelevant. I am a machine, I think. And there's a part in that movie where one of the characters, his name is John Connor. He has a lot of self doubt. So the Terminator actually has some sort of files on basic psychology. So basically, he grabs John Connor by the throat and he starts saying, "Yes, you're not the one I want. You're worthless." And then finally, that motivates John Connor to actually act up and respond very forcefully. And then Terminator lets him go and says, "Good." And then he says, like, "You were just fucking with me?" And the Terminator responds, "Yes, anger is more useful than despair." The tears jettison out around my tear ducts and slowly crystallize my body. That is a reference to Dante's Inferno of Lucifer being trapped within the crystals. And then, of course, in the "If one good deed in all my life I did, I no longer repented from my very soul," that's reference to Titus Andronicus. Titus Andronicus, the character Aaron, does not say, "I no longer repent." He does say, "If one good deed in all my life I did," I forget. "If one good deed in all my life I did, I no longer repented from." Oh my god, I just forget the line. "If one good deed in all my life I did, I repented from my very soul." It's been a while. He's a very detestable character. He wishes he could do a lot more horrible things. Like, I think it's 10,000 deeds more. I guess a lot of people wouldn't like him, but I always found myself attracted to that kind of character. I guess it shows my horrible taste in men. I'm always attracted to toxic masculinity and things like that. I just thought I'd share that story. It was one I wrote for a friend some time ago. But then I guess I never gave it to them, actually. So as years went by, I still had the story, and I gave it to someone else. They were considerably younger than I was. So I was about 38 at the time, and I think they were barely 21. And I gave them the story. I initially tried to alter the story because it was more of a romantic love, not a love based on friendship. So the more I altered it, the whole meaning behind the story just changed. So as time went on, I eventually gave her the entirety of the story, and she already knew me well enough to know that I wasn't hitting on her. But if you were to read the story, I would suppose you might think that. She kind of did help me bring me back from a very suicidal time in my life. I had 2 suicide attempts, one in May and one in June. They were both strangulations. One actually happened in the mental hospital, and then about a month later, it happened at my old apartment, and my roommates actually had to stop me, and they called the cops on me. But thankfully, I don't know how they did it. They got the cops to leave, so I didn't have to go back to the hospital, and I was very grateful for that. I was really a mess about a year ago. And having borderline personality disorder just makes it worse. In a way, I kind of fell in love with this person. They're a good friend. I wouldn't say I loved them in a romantic sense, but as much as a person can love a friend, I guess you can say, that's how I felt about them. And I haven't seen them in a number of months. And I hope I could see them soon again. This channel hasn't really been producing much. I haven't been making any content in a long time. I just thought I would finally make something new. I guess it's always kind of hard to kind of put things into perspective. You go back 6 months ago, a year ago, things are very different. It's always hard for me to say that I'm happy because I don't feel like I deserve to be happy. And happiness and joy, it's always fleeting. Like even in moments of intimacy where it's hard to really escape that mindset. Even if I've ever even if I've ever had sex with someone, it's like that enjoyment, that pleasure that's there doesn't remain there. because my fear is I'm not going to reacquire this. It's gonna disappear. Am I going to be able to have this with this person again? Am I going to be able to have this with them like a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now? So even if I'm having it in that moment, it's hard for me to enjoy it in that very moment. And that's a very debilitating thing emotionally. Because you can't even enjoy making love to someone, even though it could be a very pleasurable experience, and by all purposes it should be. And it's mostly that I'm afraid of not having them ever again. Not getting to be with them ever again. It could be something as simple as just cuddling with them and sleeping with them. Not sex in general, but just being able to hold them at night and tell them thank you for being with me. I don't know if I would say I'm completely in a better place. A lot of the things that are plaguing me are still there. I guess I could say it's a lot better to have some people that you care about around you, that help you. And sometimes with someone with borderline personality disorder, it's very hard to accept that friendship or that love from someone. Because unfortunately, someone like myself needs constant affirmation, and it could be exhausting for a lot of people to deal with. And people tend to confuse borderline personality disorder with bipolar disorder, and they're kind of similar and they're basically linked, but there's distinct differences. From my understanding, there's not a lot of mania that goes into borderline personality disorder. So maybe I'll try to post more on this channel, kind of revive it a little bit. I might post more on the other channel again. I don't know. That channel was very different. This one is more going back to when I was in my 20s, and I had a very different view on the world. I wasn't as angry as I became now. I guess you can call it the naivety of youth. So the channels had different names. It started off with Crazy 835. Then I think it switched over to Gojira Shinagami, and then briefly it was, I think it was Bonnie Rabbit. So the name I go by now is Bonnie, and yes, I know I haven't shaven, so I don't look like I want to look. And the one video I have on here of my face is just me wearing black makeup, and it looks like I have a Batman logo on my face. And at that time period, I was consuming a lot of Robert Pattinson content, and I just thought he was the cutest thing ever, especially as Bruce Wayne. He's a beautiful man. I don't know what I'll do with this channel. I could possibly upload more music content and just provide commentary on it. I really don't care about it's not a channel to be monetized. There's no point in that. Well, I guess to those who are still hovering around this channel, thank you, and I hope you're not put off by what you see now.